So, if the Ghostbusters are able to capture the ghosts of past, present, and future, do you think they have it in them to catch the Holy Ghost? And we are back with another series of Christmas reviews here on Narcotic Casserole. And as is tradition, we always begin our lineup with a review of one of the many versions of A Christmas Carol. And also another tradition is that we take a shot every time I say A Christmas Carol. Fuck. But this year is a different year. This year we actually have a new Ghostbusters film out. Now, as I am recording this, I have not seen it yet. But by the time this airs, it's out. Frankly, after the piss-poor behavior that most people had from the reactions on the 2016 movie, I don't really give a damn how other people feel about it. Hopefully, I'll like it. I don't know. We'll find out in due course. Why am I talking about Ghostbusters at the start of Christmas? Well, because there was a Christmas episode, not only a Christmas episode, but a fantastic play on A Christmas Carol on the animated series The Real Ghostbusters, the episode called Xmas Marks the Spot. And it was written by J. Michael Straczynski. Most people know him and love him for the creator of Babylon 5. He's also the guy who keeps insisting that he wants to write for Doctor Who, but of course the Brits will never let him write for Doctor Who because they don't want Americans ever writing for Doctor Who, which is a bit of a hypocrisy because, we bring them over, we outsource them to come write our shit. It just seems right that we should fucking hire me! Digressing. Xmas Marks the Spot was written by J. Michael Straczynski, and I don't think I need to get into how amazing The Real Ghostbusters was as an animated series. Many people will agree, in the annals of animated series based on popular movies, The Real Ghostbusters was top tier. Many times even delving into some pretty hardcore occult themes. And there's even an episode where they face off against Cthulhu. Yeah. With all that, you're thinking, how are they going to do A Christmas Carol? The episode kicks off. The Ghostbusters are coming back from a gig in upstate New York that went one way or the other. All you know is that Ray fried a cat. The cat survived, apparently. It's just now Mr. Bigglesworth. They wind up trapped in a temporal crossrip, which ends up landing them in 19th century Britain, where Scrooge has his fateful encounters with the three spirits. Of course, the Ghostbusters are all like, got more work to do, so they go in, bust all three of the spirits of Christmas, but they wind up getting screwed by Scrooge. You realize how hard it is to say after you've had this many drinks? When they get back to New York, they unfortunately discover that a weird phenomenon has happened. Because Scrooge never was redeemed by the spirits, now everyone in New York despises Christmas. There's no Christmas decorations around. The mere mention of Christmas makes people immediately go, bah, humbug.
Christmas.
Bah, humbug.
Christmas.
Humbug.
Fascinating.
The thing that cracks me up about the notion of all of this is the fact that a lot of people in New York, when they want to say fuck you to people, they're saying humbug to you, humbug to you.
Bah, humbug. Bah, humbug. Bah, humbug to you. Oh, bah, humbug you.
There's a part of me kind of wishing that humbug took off, through the generations, where it'll, replace up your ass. So now the Ghostbusters have a big problem. On one side, unfortunately, Egon already put them in the containment unit. Meanwhile, the other Ghostbusters have to have a fail-safe plan in the event that Egon can't get the ghosts out of the containment unit. And this all happens in 20-something minutes. You gotta remember, for American television, for shows that are dominantly half an hour long, they're cramming a lot of story into 20-something minutes, and this story is able to cram a lot, and it actually works. And at the end of it all, not only is it a great Christmas episode where we actually have a very strong character arc with Peter, which I'll get into in a bit, but it's also a fun spin on A Christmas Carol. Am I just saying Christmas Carol because I have a drink in my hands for once? Yes. Now, in the history of Ghostbusters, this one actually does some really cool stuff, which, if memory serves prior to it, they had not done before, because I know that there were a lot of fans actually wondering, what is it like for the ghosts inside the containment unit? Now, I don't know the physics of how it's possible. It's very clear that the inside of the containment grid is dimensionally transcendental. Spirits that live on a certain level of corporeality are obviously able to live in there. This big internal dimension. If we're to believe that this is in the continuity of the movies, we're to believe that in the beginning, Ray's childhood home, triple mortgaged, was able to properly fund not just the construction of portable mini nuclear accelerators, but also a containment field where within is a pocket dimension where ghosts can live. I don't know if that works properly. Even Dan Aykroyd himself has openly said that's bullshit. But nevertheless, it does lead to a really cool sequence where Egon, wearing a suit to help shift his corporeality, goes into the containment grid to hunt down the three spirits and get them out. It actually is a really cool bit because you're also getting all these little Easter eggs to prior episodes where you're seeing a lot of the ghosts that they busted in all those episodes. Meanwhile, on the side of this going on, you've got the other Ghostbusters having to go back to Scrooge's house, and as a failsafe, they themselves have to be the ghosts of past, present, and future. We discover at the beginning of this story, Peter is actually very blasé on Christmas. And even though it's not really dwelt upon that much for the sake of time in this episode, it's hinted that a lot of it has to do with Peter's dad. And we know that Peter is pretty much bitter about it. It's very clear Peter had a rough childhood, much like Ebenezer Scrooge. And one of the times of the year that pours salt on that particular wound for Peter is Christmas. And during their endeavors to try to stand in for the spirits, you have Peter really busting his ass as the ghost of Christmas past, using a Viewmaster, which I really, really freaking enjoyed. Have to kind of have this gap of logic where in the midst of their efforts to get back there, they also had to go find a Viewmaster, which very conveniently had the disc of A Christmas Carol with all the little snippets of Scrooge's home, or Scrooge's past. There's some gaps in logic here, but in the end, it's still really funny seeing what Peter has to do in order to sell being the ghost of Christmas past. But at the end of it, Scrooge is like, wait a minute, I was supposed to learn something? And then Peter...
We're supposed to learn that just because you had a rotten past, that's no reason to blame Christmas. Lots of us had Christmases that weren't the best, but if you give up, you just end up denying yourself what you're so mad about never having had before.
Now, the thing that fascinates me about writing for animated series, particularly ones in a very truncated runtime, it's incredible when you're ambitious enough to put so much story in such a limited time span, but you're able to have a complete character arc, but you're also able to have two very ambitious parallel plots running at the same time. And the fact that both sides actually do a great job, fulfilling them to their peak potential, because while you've got the whole thing with the other Ghostbusters going on, you've got this race against time scenario with Egon as he's floating within the grid trying to find the three spirits. And to make matters worse, the device that they're using to help keep the grid open so Egon can get out is overheating, and you've got Slimer actually trying to stop the thing from blowing up. You've got a third thing going on, and of course you got Janine there kind of commenting on it, kind of being the Lambert to Egon's Dallas, only it ends a heck of a lot better than that. And somehow the miracle of this episode is that proper focus is put entirely on all the spots when it needs to be. And all crescendos in a gorgeous resolution where Peter, now having experienced a world without Christmas, now comes to the realization that because he's surrounded by his surrogate family, this group of people who he's been through thick and thin and done incredible things with, the whole point of having Christmas is to enjoy the time you have with the people you love. And Peter is now finally coming to that appreciation. And I even like the little nod at the end of the episode where the Ghost Christmas Present, also voiced by Maurice LaMarche, by the way, actually does a little wink indicating that maybe all of this was actually deliberate in order to help Peter with his little festive crises. And I mean, I'm sure that I'm reading into that, but I mean, it's not unreasonable to think that. In a way, it's a nice little candy cane in the hot chocolate. You're still able to have an episode that is able to get the emotional core of A Christmas Carol, and yet still being a really entertaining Ghostbusters story, and for extra measure, able to show us things that we speculated about as fans of Ghostbusters. So if you love Ghostbusters and if you love A Christmas Carol, check out the Real Ghostbusters episode, Xmas Marks the Spot. Now, I don't know where it's streaming. I actually have it on the original DVD that came out, God, I think around the same time the video game came out. If you could find it, definitely get around to watching it. I did find it on YouTube, so it's naughty. Bootlegging's naughty. We all know what happens to people who are naughty at Christmas. Naughty! Keep here on Narcotic Casserole, and for more festive content, simply like, share, subscribe, click Thou Shalt Be Served. Screwed by Ebenezer Screwed, but Ebenezer Screwed. I've only had 3 sips.